Hey all, it's Chase from the All Blue Crew. Today we're going to be rocking Bonney as we go through our Saturday morning locals adventure here. Round 1 is against Kozuki Oden here, and if you'll notice, I'm moving a little bit faster than usual. That's because this video is sped up to 1.5 speed. This would have been a very long video. Instead, we're going to make it a not as long video. In general, Bonney tends to play pretty controlling, so I consider this like, you know, Enel adjacent, right? So I think I like Enel better, but Bonney does have a little bit of a different access. Definitely can slow down your opponents here, but Kozuki Oden can be a pretty aggressive deck as he likes to see 5 drops and attach it onto his lead to give himself plus 1000 for the turn, which is going to make it kind of hard for me to attack into it just because I am on the even curve. And if you don't know, Bonney does pretty well in the even curve, but a lot of her plays max out her Dawn, so she won't be swinging 6Ks very often. So that's potentially why this game is going to go a little bit long. My goal here is to try to control the board as much as possible. Going to tap down that Otama, say no fighting today, little girl, even though it doesn't really matter, just for funsies there. Going to go ahead and send 7K lead. I'm going to go ahead and take that one, try to look for some action. I have a lot of 2Ks in hand, not a lot going on though. Just pick up a cost kid as well as a 0 cost event. I do have the Rouge here, I believe, on 4, which is like the absolute perfect play. I do have the Hawkins as well, so I can go Rouge into Hawkins. We're going to go ahead and send 5 into lead here. He is not at 6K yet. He's just a 5K leader, so he's going to go ahead and counter out of it with a 1K, and then we're going to play out the Rouge here. Rouge is going to set up 1 Dawn at the end of our turn, allowing us to activate Bonney's effect pretty much every turn as long as the Rouge stays alive here, and that's kind of the goal, keeping him going and allowing me to be efficient on my Dawn usage while also still being able to hold up Bonney's ability. Now remember, Bonney's ability does activate every time your opponent attacks, so you don't have to use it on the first attack, and sometimes I forget on the first attack, but then you know, I'm saved on the second attack. Opponent here going ahead and playing out 5 cost Yamato. It's a 2K from hand, so I'm happy to see that come out into play. That Yamato will activate Oden's ability because Yamato is a 5 cost. Oden, when attacking, will get plus 1000 for the turn, making him a 6K leader, turning him into a 7K leader right now. I'm going to go ahead and rest the Yamato with my leader effect, and now I'm kind of considering, like, should I go ahead and just start countering things out of these 7Ks, man, they hurt. 7Ks hurt a lot, especially when you got a lot of 2Ks in hand, because that's going to burn up at least 2 2Ks, but I'm looking at the 0 cost event, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and cash it in here, turning that 0 cost event into a 1K, pitching a 2K to get out of that attack. Trying to stay at like a relatively high life total because I know Oden can be pretty aggressive. They could run kid and killer, stuff like that, so getting down to 2 wouldn't feel very good. Do pick up a Bonney here. If I wanted to freeze the Yamato, I could definitely do that, but I do have the Hawkins in hand, so I definitely just want to go potentially into Hawkins here. We could go ahead and send 5 at the Yamato to try to potentially get counter out of hand, since we can't attack lead if we decide to be Dawn efficient this turn. Go ahead and send 5 into Yamato. Maybe get a card out of hand, maybe just, you know, KO the Yamato. I don't really care which way it goes this time. I'm not really too excited to do it. He's going to go ahead and play a Paradise Waterfall, which gives plus 2000 and sets up. I'm actually a little face cam, boom, fresh shave on the head there, and fresh dew. But learning what that card does, that is a old card, I think from OP07, though it does have the new like premium collection treatment. So pretty cool card that now I should know. I potentially need to play around some 1 cost events here that are going to give power boosting outside of the hand size here. Play that Hawkins pass, set up a Dawn from a Rouge. Bonney is weird. Bonney's a very strange deck. As I was playing it, I was trying to figure out when, you know, you should be controlling and when you should be aggressive is a very interesting dynamic of Bonney versus like Enel. You're just always like controlling, right? And then eventually you go aggressive, but sometimes Bonney you kind of want to go halfway, right? Aggressive and controlling. Opponent here, instead of tapping down my Rouge, he actually does the smart play and taps down my Dawn with the Hody Jones coming in. That just shows how aggressive this deck is. So he's going to go ahead and use Yamato's effect, attach that Dawn, swing 7K lead. Oh, this hurts, man. This hurts because then we've got an 8K Hody Jones, which is probably going to eat 2 2Ks from my hand because I don't want to go down to 2 here, but this is not looking very good for me at this point. He does rest again. My Hawkins is rested. I do end up triggering a potential card. It does only rest a 4 cost or less, so I immediately slap that in my hand here. And then now I have the situation where yes, I could use a 0 cost event again to get out of a 7 cost swing, or you know, an 8 cost swing with a 2K. But we're just going to go ahead and 2k out of the 5 cost, and then he potentially might just take this hit here. We've only got 2ks in hand, the 0 cost. We're kind of leaning into the 8 cost kid play, as it can kind of gum up the board. But Oden can get pretty tall, so maybe not so much of an issue for my opponent here. Going to go ahead and send 8k. I believe this is also going to lead very focused on life. I'm going to take that one. We get a Zoro in hand. Zoro, great card. Love that card a lot. Really awkward card to set up with, though. You can only, like, into this specific matchup, I could probably get if he wasn't as aggressive this early, I could probably have set up a Zoro or this Zoro on 9 as a potential kill condition, but, like, it's not great against certain matchups that can just get rid of it. It's really just a slam down and hope and pray. But it feels pretty awkward in my hand right now. I am on 8 Dawn. I could play out the kid, but I can't even attach Dawn to it, can't activate it. So I'm just going to get feisty here. We're going to go ahead and send 10 into Hody Jones. I'm trying to get some cards out of hand. Oden sometimes doesn't run a lot of 2Ks just because Oden's ability lets him counter 1K with literally any card, right? Any Land of Wano card without counter. He's just going to let it die. I'm very happy about that, especially exchanging a potential blocker, right? So Hawkins, weird card. Hawkins, great blocker, but also sometimes a great attacker, being that 7K. So I'm going to go send 5, get a 1K out of hand, and then we're going to play the Bonney. Bonnie's going to freeze Yamato, and Rouge doing his job, setting up another Dawn here. Trying my best to offset my opponent's aggression. I think next turn we're going to try to set up a cost kid, potentially, and try to do something here. Try to stabilize. That's kind of the goal as we've gone into this game. I wasn't expecting Oden to be this aggressive, but Oden, it's a scary deck. Red and green is especially red, very aggressive color. So again, just trying to maintain, control the board. Again, this is a weird matchup. Oden isn't a very like popular deck, so it's interesting to play against decks like this because it's kind of interesting to play around some of their effects, but it's kind of hard to play around effects that you don't really expect, right? Like a Yamato off the top, resting my Rouge, and then we see a 5k swing or a 6k swing go into lead here. I'm going to go ahead and tap the Yamato with my Bonney ability. Never forget the Bonney ability. We got a 7k swing coming at lead again. This is me looking at my 0 cost event. I think we're just going to get rid of the Hody. I don't think I have time to play Hody at this point. I really need to just set up into controlling the board here. That Hody, I'm out too low of life, and the opponent has too much life for me to potentially use the Hody, though the Hody could be pretty important, and maybe I regret discarding that. It's very, like I said, Bonney's weird because you have to know when to pivot into a more aggressive strategy versus a more defensive strategy. I think in general, I'm already on the defense. I'm playing defender. He's going to play out a kid killer, which I expected to see, right? And sends it at my Rouge. So I'm happy that wasn't going at face there, setting me even lower. But I did just lose my greatest blocker, the blocker that's really good at setting up Dawn. Do have enough Dawn here to play the 8 cost kid as well as attach 1 Dawn to it, rest it, so that way they have to attack that kid versus anything else, right? They can't attack my other characters or my leader. They have to attack that kid, and I do have a few 2Ks in hand as well, to block it. I think that Bonnie's a 1K as well. Could also just play Zoro here, but I think my opponent has just too much board pressure for me to successfully play Zoro, even though Zoro is a potential win condition if it sticks on the board and I survive the turn. So eyeballing that 8 cost kid, I think right now I'm looking at it and I'm going, I'm pretty sure I couldn't remember if I had the errata or pre-errata version of kid. Gonna go ahead and send 6 into kid and killer, trying to 2k check the opponent here. But a few months after this first set release, they went through and errated a bunch of cards, and so any card that like forced you to do something now had an up to clause. Well, I was looking at a pre-errata kid, and it's been a while since I played with 8 cost kids, so I had to end up checking. Was really debating what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I had to play that card off of its ability. It says play at 3 cost when you tap it, but it's up to. So we ended up figuring that. I did go ahead and send 5 into Yamato here. Still trying to just clean up my opponent's board before I start to get aggressive. This 8 cost kid's probably going to come down and try to gum up the board even more. Opponent goes ahead and flashes a Radical Beam. All right, that's something I also have to think about here. That is just a 2k counter Radical Beam, but I'm gonna be a little nervous here. I think I'm just gonna potentially leave my Hawkins up, or I could use it to try to clear board a little bit further, especially now that they've used some resources to counter out of that, and the opponent only has 2 cards in hand. We're just gonna play that ACOS kid, and then after a frame jump, we will rest it. That was me again reading the rules to make sure that the errata was I was using the pre-errata version, just wanted to make sure, so I did end up checking that out. But yeah, play the ACOS kid, slap a Don on it. Go ahead and leave a Don up so I have something to rest. We're going to leave Hawkins on blocking duty this turn. He's a very good blocker. And then I've got some 2Ks in hand to potentially save my ACOS kid. ACOS kid does force the Oden player to stack quite a bit of Don on their characters to try to finish off kid right before they can start attacking me or my board. So I feeling like decent into this turn, knowing that they can't commit too much Don to play new characters, right? They're going to have to commit quite a bit of Don to be able to handle my kid here. I think my opponent's counting out some Don that they want to potentially throw onto an attacker. I do have 1 Don up, so I'm going to be able to rest one of the other annoying threats. They go ahead and grab 6 Don here, making me nervous. Yep, and so they're going to attach 6 Don, going to get that plus 1,000 as well. That's 14k into my into my kid here. I've only got 5k in. I could only take it up to a 13, and honestly, you just spent 6 Don. I'm fine with you killing my kid at this point. Like, kid is gone. Like, I am completely okay with that trade. Yes, I kind of wanted it to be able to swing with next turn, but at this point, if you're going to spend most of your turn stopping it, I'm going to go ahead and tap your the Yamato, the 6k Yamato, and then yeah, that kid is gone. All right, you shanksed him pretty hard. He's out of here. If you get that reference, then you must be caught up for the most part. But anyways, go ahead. 3 cards in hand. Only has a Yamato to swing with. Could swing 9 with Yamato, and that's what they look like they're doing. They're going to swing 9 into Jewelry Bonney here. I am kind of incentivized to save Jewelry Bonney, as Jewelry Bonney is another way that I can clean up board. One of the things that is interesting about playing Bonney is Bonney doesn't have it doesn't really have any removal effects, right? Sure, they have a few ways to freeze things, and her leader ability allows you to rest something, but there's not a lot of ways to get rid of stuff. So it's a little unfortunate. We're gonna go ahead and just block with Hawkins, use a 2k, 1k, save the other 2k in hand. I don't want to go down too far on resources, and then we will draw. All right, we've got the 10 cost Doflamingo. Doflamingo is a amazing draw right here. So good because I can just tap. I can just freeze down the 3 characters that I am bothered by the most. And so I think here we go ahead and change gears here. We're gonna go aggressive Bonney for a second here. So we're gonna go ahead and send 6 lead. Then we're gonna send 7 lead. He is a 6k leader, so 2k's out of it. And then we're gonna play Doflamingo freeze, and I can't swing with my leader because he's a 6k leader for the turn. We're gonna go ahead and swing into my Yamato instead. I continue to have a conundrum of how I tap my cards. If you notice, I tapped my characters one way, tapped my Don the same way, and then I tapped my leader the other way. If you see me like reorientate, can't even say that word, like, you know, change the orientation of my cards, it's because I'm trying to like make it all make sense, right? I'm just tapping them left and right. I'm throwing people off, right? There's no consistency. All right, opponent throws down a Dragon. That's another card I did not expect out of this deck. Dragon is a 9k rusher that attaches 2 Don on enter. It's gonna make that an 11k attacker. That is kind of scary, honestly. But I might have enough on board if I can potentially protect it, right? It depends what the opponent wants to do here. Opponent could go for one of my characters, but the opponent could also just go face, right? But honestly, if he doesn't go for one of my characters here, I have a pretty good shot at killing him. He's going to go ahead and send a bajillion, right? So at least 12k into my 7k. I'm only got 2k in hand. We are unfortunately going to just have to let that slide. Draw a card here. We end up hitting a Bonney. So I'm running the Supernovas version of the deck versus like the version that runs all the Baby 5 searcher for the Don Quixote family. So my only searcher is Bonney, and I had not found a single Bonney searcher all game, and I finally found one here on this turn. It's actually going to prove to be pretty useful, as Bonney has a lot of great targets in this deck since it is Supernovas, so it's not going to be very hard. Go ahead and slap my camera, as I go ahead and look at the top 5 for something cool. And wow, I have so many targets, and by that I mean I just have Bartolomeo and a Cavendish. Cavendish, not very useful at this point. Bartolomeo, though, is a nice little blocker to try to stave off some of the aggression. So not bad. It would have also been nice to find another Bonney there so I could just loop her again, right? But I do need to tap my Bonney. I will get to it eventually, but that Bonney is tapped. So we've got 8 Dawn to work with. I'm definitely going to play the Bartolomeo. I'm definitely going to leave a Dawn up. So technically we only have 4 Dawn to work with. I could go ahead and attach some Dawn to Doflamingo to try to take out Dragon. Or I could just ignore Dragon and try to go for lead and just like disrupt my opponent's attacks with the Bonney effect, as well as having the Bartolomeo blocker out there. I'm not going to be countering out of anything when I use that blocker. So instead we're just going to go 9k into the Yamato. That Yamato is like a free Dawn every turn to the leader. So I want to kind of hurt the Dawn. And I think at this point we're going to ignore the Dragon here. Instead just go 11. We're respecting right now. We are respecting a Radical Beam. They are at 2 life. They got 2 Dawn up. They showed me a Radical Beam before. We're going to respect it. I'm going to go ahead and send 5 at lead. Opponent's going to go ahead and take that, right? And then go down to 1 life. And I've got 3 Dawn. Okay, there we go. Tapping it correctly this time. And then tapping 3 for my Bartolomeo. Having a blocker as well as 1 Dawn up here. I'm in a pretty great position at this point. The opponent's only going to get to swing with their lead or with their character. Oden is a little incentivized to swing with the lead just because they can get that bonus, though right now he does not have any Land of Wano cards with a cost of 5 or more. That was kind of my goal also in killing both Yamatos, especially the 5-drop Yamato. But he goes ahead and shows me well, I don't even know, the gum something. I don't know. It KOs a 6 cost or less. That is a starter deck card. For starter deck 1, he KOs my Bartolomeo. Plays out a Hiyori. Hiyori trashes, draws him a card. Plays out a Yamato. Boom. Back to having a 5 cost. Yamato's going to attach 1 Dawn, and now he's back to a 7k leader for the turn and a 6k on my turn. That's going to potentially make my life a little bit harder because their Radical Beam can counter up to 10, right? So I do need to think about that next turn, as the opponent looks like they're going to be leaving 2 Dawn up. Opponent wants to make sure that they get that trigger on the lead, so I'm going to tap their Dragon. So they want to ensure that they have 7k and a 6k going to my turn. We do see 1k, a little bit of a child on Bonney action here, Otama versus Bonney. I do go ahead and throw 1k to prevent this child on child violence. If you get my drift, that's no fun at all. All right. Feeling like this is a potential turn to go for lethal here. We have 3 attackers. They have no blockers. They've got 1 Dawn up. I believe that's 1 Dawn. And they're representing a potential Radical Beam with 2 cards in hand. So I am going to attack above Radical Beam. So opponent is a 6k leader. We're going to swing 10s. Radical Beam does not save them. So start with a 10. And I've already got another fresh 10 on board. And I've got 6 Dawn laid off to the side to go 11 with lead. Opponent takes it. Gonna go ahead and swing 10 with Doflamingo. Another Rad Beam plus a card check. Opponent thumbs the cards in the hand, and they didn't even have a Rad Beam. They were bluffing like a master, and I end up taking the game against Oden. Oden with a really fast start, but I was able to stabilize that. Doflamingo off the top honestly saved me the game there. Otherwise, I was going to be in a rough spot. Looked like I was going to get another Doflamingo out of life, but other than that, that is round 1 with Bonney. And we'll see how far we can take this deck. Very interesting in comparison to an L. I call it like Diet an L. But yeah, should be a good time. Other than that, check you out in the next video.